This is another traditional story. This one is called Anansi and the Giant Snake. Once upon a time, a very long time ago, when all the people in the world lived in one village in the middle of Africa next to a river. Just outside the village, there lived a person who was not quite a man and not quite a spider, but he was a bit of each, and his name was Anansi, and he lived outside the village because the people of the village were a bit cautious about people who were different like Anansi was, and he felt more comfortable on his own in his shack outside the village. Now it happened that there came down the river a giant snake, and the snake found a nice cave beside the river and went to live in it. And the snake discovered that the people who came to the river every day made him a very nice snack occasionally. The people of the village thought it was terrible. The children couldn't play in the water safely anymore. The women couldn't do their washing safely anymore. The men couldn't bring the cattle and sheep down to the river to drink anymore. It was a terrible business. Well, in those days, the people could still talk to the gods. And so the people asked the Sky God, "Sky God, please get rid of this snake for us. Take him away." And the Sky God said, "Well, I can't actually just do that all by myself. But if you could capture the snake, then I could take him away. And I tell you what, the person who captures the snake, I will give them a book of knowledge." Well, all the people of the village discussed this and talked about this, and all the animals overheard them and the plants overheard them, and gradually it became general knowledge through the jungle what was happening, but nobody had come up with an idea for catching and capturing the snake until the word reached Anansi in his little hut outside the village. And Anansi sat down and thought for a bit. And then he got up and he went to the village. And he went and stood in the middle of the village and he whistled through his fingers like I can't. And all the people of the village came out and stood round Anansi. And Anansi said, "I hear you have a problem with the snake." "Oh, terrible problem. You don't know the half of it. My cousin, my little boy, Oh, dear." He listened to all their stories and then said, "I have a plan to get rid of the snake, but I need some help." "How can we help? How can we help?" asked the people of the village. "Well," said Anansi, "firstly, I need the men to cut down that big tree over there and take all the branches off it and carry it down near the river where I show them." Okay, we can do that, said the men. And I'd like all the women to make a really beautiful big jug. And when they fired it with clay, to milk all the sheep and goats and fill the jug with water. With milk, sorry, not water. No, to fill the jug with milk. Okay, said the women. Yes, we can do that. And then, said Anansi, I'd like the children to gather rushes and plait and weave a huge basket, and then go through the forest and climb every tree and look in every bush and steal every bird's egg you can find and bring them back and fill the basket with birds' eggs. We can do that, said the children, who loved climbing bushes and trees and weren't averse to stealing a bird's egg or two. Right, said Anansi. And when they were all ready, he led them down to the river beside the big cave where the snake lived. And he said, put the tree down over there. Put the eggs and the milk down here. Go away. And off they all went and left Anansi alone beside the cave. And Anansi said, in a funny little spiderish sort of a voice, this is the place, your highness, your sirness, your excellence. This is the place where that terrible snake lives that eats people. And then Anansi slapped all his 8 arms and legs together and made lots of noise like, oh no, please sir, no, and said in his Anansi voice very sternly, you must not say that. He is not a terrible snake, he is a great and wonderful person. I have come to give him homage. Now be off with you. Yes, sir. Yes, your highness. Go. Blimey, go. And Nancy made the noise of feet running away into the distance. And the snake, who'd been sitting at the back of the cave listening to all this, was a bit curious. So he slid to the front of the cave and he looked out, and there was Anansi. Oh, sir, said Anansi, it's true you live here. Yes, said the snake. Please, sir, I've brought you some gifts, said Anansi. Oh, really, said the snake, who liked the odd gift. I've brought you some eggs, said Anansi. I understand you like an egg. Oh, I do like the odd egg, said the snake. Do come out a bit further, said Anansi, and I'll give you the eggs. Oh, yes, said the snake, and slid out a little further and opened a huge cavernous mouth, for snakes can just open their jaws like that. They don't have to open them like we do, hinged. They dislocate them. And then Anansi poured a whole basket full of eggs into the snake's mouth. And the snake went, "Yes, very nice, thank you. And then Anansi said, "Over here, sir, I have some milk. If all that eating has made you a little thirsty, perhaps you'd like a drink." "Oh, thank you," said the snake, and slid out a little further so that Anansi could tip the huge jug of milk down the snake's throat. And Anansi looked at the snake and said, "My goodness, sir, but you are most beautiful and wondrous snake." "Oh, thank you," said the snake. "Could you slide a little further out so I can see a little more of your body? Is it really that big?" "Oh, it's quite large," said the snake, and slid out a little further. He loved a bit of flattery. "Goodness me," said Anansi. I think you might be even longer than that tree trunk over there." "Do you think so?" said the snake. "Please, slide over. Slide next to it. I'll tell you," said Anansi. So the snake slid out and went and lay down beside the tree trunk. And Anansi walked to the snake's tail end. And the snake was actually about quite a bit shorter than the tree trunk. But Anansi walked round to the front of the snake and said, "Do you know, sir, you're actually a good bit longer than the tree trunk." "Oh," said the snake. "Goodness, your body is beautiful," said Anansi. "Do you mind if I just stroke your tail a little bit?" "Oh, no, that'd be all right," said the snake. And so Anansi walked to the tail and stroked the snake's tail, and gradually he stroked a little higher up the snake and a little further, and the sun shone in the beautiful African day, and the snake was very full with eggs and milk, and it was very peaceful with Anansi stroking him and spinning spider web. And gradually the snake went to sleep, and Anansi stroked, and Anansi spun, and Anansi gradually tied the snake to the log from one end to the other. And then he walked round to the front of the snake and he said, "Hey!" And he thumped the snake in the nose. "What?" said the snake, and made to lunge at Anansi, and found that he couldn't move. "Hey, you murderous old git! Now see who's on top," said Anansi, and he called the people back. And they all came, and they all spattered the snake with mud, and they beat him with sticks, and finally they picked him up and they threw him in the river. And then the sky god kept his promise, and he did a wonderful thing. He made the river run backwards, so the snake was taken up into the deep, deep jungle until finally the log lodged in a little stream right at the beginning of the river. And there the snake had to stay until he'd finally digested all those eggs and milk and was slim enough that he could sneak free of his spider bonds. But he knew well enough never to go back where there were men. So the men lived happily in their village, and Anansi collected a book of knowledge from the sky god and went off to his hut to read. Thank you. Goodbye. Oh, you can subscribe to the thread. There's more coming. Bye.